Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today's video is going to be a weekly energy update from the date of March 21st through the 27th. Right now, as you can probably feel, we're in the very powerful equinox energy, and it's probably been affecting you for a while now up until this point, and will continue to affect you going into this next week. So this week right now is exceptionally transformative, an exceptionally forward-moving energy, bringing you forward, bringing you up to another level, to a new chapter of your life. Number one, I wrote down a recalibration period. Right now, in fact, I'm filming this on a very ominous looking day. I woke up and it was raining, completely overcast, dreary, muggy type of vibe. It's one of those days where it feels like it's not the time to really go and do anything or force anything. It's a time to kind of sort of accept the crummy weather, stay inside, watch some Netflix and hang out. Now, that's sort of a light way of explaining it. This recalibration energy, though powerful, though necessary, it doesn't always feel that good. It can feel like you want to be doing stuff. And it can feel like there's just nothing there. You can feel like you're just not getting inspired. You don't feel clear. You don't feel connected. You don't feel like you're in that forward flow of life, which is exhilarating. It's exciting. We release dopamine when we are coming into new things and it feels pleasurable to us. So when these recalibration periods come in, even though they're setting the stage for you to move forward even faster into really exciting and really new and amazing things, the period itself can feel like you're just restless, you're bored, you're depressed, you're bluesy, you're melancholy. You want to do stuff, but there's nothing to do. So that's kind of the vibe right now, my friends. It reminds me a lot, and I've shared this analogy before, of a software update on your computer. You know, a software update requires you stop doing what you're doing and let the thing upgrade, obviously, and then the computer shuts off, then it turns back on. So the whole time you're just sitting there, sort of frozen in time, waiting for this thing to happen. But when it finally comes back online, you have a new app. Things run more smoothly, faster, sharper, more crisp. There are new features. So that's kind of the vibe right now, my friends. And because this recalibration vibe, this recalibration period doesn't feel good sometimes, it can manifest itself in like old habits coming back. Any little habits or addictions or compulsions you have that your brain has learned do the job of distracting you from the what might be boring and dull and unfulfilling present moment, those habits tend to kind of sneak back into your life for a time. And then that can really be a drag, because not only do you feel like you're stagnant, like you're not moving forward, but then you're like watching yourself sort of play out these old patterns it's like you recognize that they're not serving you, but you do them anyway because you're just so desperate to feel good. And it can be this sort of like downward spiral. At least it feels that way. And this could be a very benign thing, not a serious thing. For me, I've been watching a lot of Vikings. My friend Aaron Dowdy turned me on to this show, The Vikings. I love it. It's an amazing show, but I've been watching way too much of it. 3-4 episodes a day. My wife and I have been watching Vikings, and I know it's not good for me. It's making me feel kind of like overstimulated. It's making it hard to sleep at night, but I keep doing it because, like you, I'm going through this recalibration period, finding it hard to feel inspired and charged and excited for the new. I'm just sort of stuck here. But the really smart thing to do during these recalibration periods is to just be. It's to just it's almost a time to just be and allow and know that in doing so, you're kind of charging up your tired spirit. It's like our spirit becomes fatigued, it seems, metaphorically, not literally, but it feels like our spirit needs to be at times replenished, rejuvenated. In fact, there's this awesome author named Julia Cameron who wrote the famous book, The Artist's Way, and she talks about this. She talks about the lifestyle of the artist. She said that there are times where you need to take an artist date. An artist date is what I just described, is to do something that is rejuvenating and replenishing to the soul. And for a lot of us, the best thing we can do is nothing, just to kind of sit there and be. But it's hard to do that. I don't take this advice perfectly because, again, if you're in this recalibration period, when you just be, when you just sit there, it can feel boring. You can feel restless. You can feel those sort of compulsions to do things you know you shouldn't do, like eat too much or smoke too much weed or drink too much alcohol, watch too much Vikings. It's like that's kind of what you're sitting with, so it's difficult. But if you can do that, there are times when I can do this. That's when this recalibration period can move on. You can move on from it very quickly. In fact, my youngest son, he's been sick, not too bad. He has a cold, and yesterday he got up. It was like Sunday yesterday. He woke up at like 8 in the morning, and I was like, "What up, Luke?" And then he just disappeared for a couple hours. And I went and I finally found him, like almost 3 hours later, like 11 o'clock or so. I went into his room. I was like, "Luke, what are you doing?" I thought he'd be reading or something. He just laying there in bed. He said, "Dad, I've been literally doing nothing. And I find that the more I sit here and rest, the better I feel." Oh, how simple. So that's kind of the name of the game right now, my friend. If you feel that way, as best you can, take time to just do nothing like my son Luke, and then you can really recalibrate much more quickly. Okay? And regardless of how you feel during this recalibration, it is just a phase. This too shall pass. It is just part of this massive upgrade and expansion. A lot of times we're on this trajectory going forth in a somewhat what we think is a predictable way. And even though it seems good, it seems ideal, sometimes we need to let life sort of shake us up and make us step back and make us sort of break free from this patterned way of looking at life, which is of course limited, and allow something brand spanking new to emerge. And that's kind of what these things do. These recalibration periods do. They make you just sort of sit there. They recalibrate your frequency. And all of a sudden, like that computer revving back up for the first time after the update, you're new. You're seeing life through new, fresh eyes. New ideas can come in. New opportunities can be recognized and pursued. And that's the outcome. And then it's like almost like a light that turns back on, and you feel all of a sudden super charged up, super inspired, like, holy cow, life is amazing. That's what happens as you come out of the recalibration period. Number 2, I wrote down heart chakra clearing. A lot of times during these recalibration periods, things that are truly holding us down, weighing us down vibrationally, can make themselves known. And it's sort of common to just be preoccupied with the surface level of things. Like for me, as an example, I've been going through this, that's why I'm talking about it. And I too have found myself kind of restless, bored, again, watching too much Vikings, too much TV, even though I know I shouldn't. And in my mind, I was thinking like, Victor, you need to really curb your habits. You need to get back on track. You need to get focused, Surface, very, very surface level way of thinking I had there. And yesterday, in fact, I was getting into my sauna, and it was Sunday, so I planned on Sunday being my reset day. And I got into my sauna, and all of a sudden, I noticed my heart felt very heavy. And this person came to mind, this relationship that sort of fizzled out of my life in a way that I'm not proud of. It just was it's like we were both triggered, me and this person, and our egos battled it out, and that was it. And it's like our ties have been severed. But I found this circumstance really weighing very heavy on my heart. And I felt myself just really sad about the way things unfolded. And as I was sitting there in the sauna kind of contemplating this, I realized, wow, this same dynamic has played out a couple of times in my life. And I'm going to share it with you because it's kind of an example of the depth of insight you can have. For me personally, this is not necessarily a reading for you, but just sort of an idea of what kind of stuff you can conclude in your mind and move on from, to totally make these recalibration periods, to do them justice. Anyway, I realized that I had this tendency to try to fix people. I had this one really close friend of mine, his name is Derek, and he grew up in a much more toxic, you could say, household than I did. So he just had deeper issues than I did. And we were like best friends though. We had the same jobs together. We went to high school together. We moved together. We lived together. We did everything together, me and this guy. And there came a point where I started to kind of grow faster than him. And I loved him. He was like a dear brother of mine. So I tried to help him. I tried to save him. I tried to give him opportunities that were open to me at the time. And Derek tried his best to keep up, but eventually it was just not a match for him and he just peeled away. And I took it personally, and it was kind of like I tried to force him to keep up with me. It just ended bad, even though my intentions were good. So anyway, I realized that's kind of like the underlying theme that created this other thing I was talking about. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that can come up at this time during the recalibration period. We have our sights set on the future. We know what we want for the most part. We know what we don't want. But for that to actually happen, oftentimes there are these unseen but significant issues that need to be brought to light. And right now with the equinox, for a lot of us, I suspect it'll have to do with matters of the heart. You can probably just hear that and all of a sudden just tune into yourself and feel like, what? Is there any heaviness in your heart? Anything unresolved within any of your relationships? It's a really important time to clear our heart. And in clearing our heart, it will really make a lot of the other things that may have concerned you completely resolve themselves. The more we can come into our heart and clear our heart and open ourselves to more love, that's when the happiness comes back. That's when you can just actually be and sit there and feel good and feel content because your heart is full. There's a feeling of compassion, humility, sincerity, love that basically makes everything in life more clear. Number 3, and as you start coming back online with your new features, your new efficiency, with your spirit renewed, with your heart unburdened, man, it's a time of incredible empowerment, incredible alignment, incredible discovery of your zone of genius. That's point number 3. Discovering your zone of genius. What is a zone of genius? Where did you get that term? It's from a book I read called The Big Leap by a guy named Gay Hendricks. He talks about different zones that people operate from. We have the zone of incompetence. That for me, that's like doing household stuff. If I had to if we order some new shelves and you ask me to put them together, it's gonna take me 6 times as long as a normal person. I'm incompetent when it comes to that. Even if I try my hardest, I'm still not going to be even satisfactory at that type of stuff. That's just me. Then we have the zone of, The zone of excellence. Zone of excellence, sounds good. Zone of excellence are things that you've mastered throughout your life. For me, as an example, it was fitness. It was working out. That was always a passion of mine. And it's something I just put a lot of time and energy into. Your zone of excellence for a lot of you is going to be your career. Now, the thing is about the zone of excellence, it might not necessarily, in fact, it by definition is not in harmony with your highest passion. So even though I was a really great fitness guy, a great trainer, it wasn't my highest, deepest passion. And I could only go so far with that. And a lot of people, they get trapped in a life founded upon their zone of excellence because maybe you went to college, but maybe the studies you chose were what your parents thought you ought to do. And even though maybe you didn't even know what you wanted to do at the time, so you just did it. And you became, okay, it's like, okay, decent, but you got good at it. And then you eventually just fell into this job. And then it pays well, and then you're pretty good at it. So there's a semblance of purpose, there's a semblance of satisfaction, but there's something deeper emerging within you that knows that you are built for something more. There's something deeper within your DNA wanting to express itself, something that's very, very present, something you will become aware of at this time because of all the things I've talked about. This recalibration period, This unburdening of your heart, it's clearing the fog and allowing you to see more deeply who you are at the core and what you have to offer. And that's your zone of genius. And the zone of genius might surprise you. It did me. Mine is communicating spiritual information online. I couldn't have guessed that. But life took me on this hero's journey, like a lot of you find yourself on, and it just sort of happened. Throughout the years of clearing and healing and dark nights to the soul and following my intuition, all of a sudden what emerged is something I could have never foreseen. It's the zone of genius. Now, a lot of you probably already have an idea of what that is. Some of you might even know exactly what the zone of genius is. But it can be challenging to truly commit to it and to trust that by you operating within your zone of genius as often as possible, as committed as possible, is enough. It's enough to support you. It's enough to fulfill you. It can almost seem too simple. Like, I love music. And then the mind comes in and says, well, musicians don't make money nowadays. Look at iTunes is taking all the profits and it's becoming more competitive. Mind. You're right, not everyone can become a successful musician, but the ones who happen to have that as their zone of genius absolutely can and will defy the odds. I find myself going through this as well. I had a dream just last night, sort of like re-clarifying my zone of genius. And I woke up thinking like, I know what that dream meant, but I'm still on the fence. It still seems too simple. Can I just let my inspiration pour out of me in these videos and do a couple other things that I enjoy and that's it? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes for you as well. But sometimes the implications of committing wholeheartedly to your zone of genius, to your purpose, can feel extraordinarily disruptive to your existing life. I had this friend named Matt, and he had this Shaktipat, I think it's called. That's when a guru triggers someone's kundalini. This happened to him. This happened to Matt. Straight up, this dude just gave him a full-on kundalini awakening. Just some people have that kind of power, which is pretty interesting. And anyway, at that time, Matt was a successful lawyer. He had his whole life built up around himself. And he said after that kundalini awakening, absolutely everything fell apart. I don't know exactly the story, but he had a restaurant he owned as well. The restaurant closed down. He lost a job as a lawyer. He was kicked out of his place of living. He was basically, after this spiritual elevation experience, he was left with nothing in his external life at all, nothing. And from the perspective at that time, I was like, what the hell happened? This is a bad thing, of course. But what came out of the rubble was Matt's purpose. And he's an amazing women's empowerment coach. But he could have never possibly seen that from the safety and the structure and the stability and just the repetitive nature, the predictable nature of his circumstance. He had to experience a falling away of the old. He had to go through periods of just being and allowing himself to sit in his restless, anxious, uncomfortable body. He had to tend to the matters of the heart that started to come up. These key things, especially within your relationships, tend to be, I believe, in my experience, the bulk of our purpose here, the bulk of our karma here. And while it might seem like, wow, I just need to get this done, I just need to finish this project, and then things are good. Those things are kind of like natural happenings that result when you tend to the heart. And right now is a phenomenal time to just sit with yourself and unburden your heart and discover another depth of your purpose, your zone of genius, and commit to it, and to go all in with it. You could look at it like this. I used to be a medical marijuana grower, and in the beginning I would order these seeds online. And about half the seeds were male. And any of you guys cannabis smokers, the male plants are mostly useless. All they do is produce seeds. They don't produce the flower. So you buy a big pack of like 20 seeds, 10 are male. Maybe half of those other 10 sprout. You got 5 out of 20 right there sprouted. And then like 1 or 2 that you like. 1 or 2 that are like the plant you're gonna grow from that point forward. And what can happen as an analogy for our life is a lot of the things we end up finding ourselves creating in our life, careers, relationships, living situations, they're like guesses. They're guesses and they're products of our conditioning, products of who our parents and society and the media and just the collective unconsciousness. We develop this idea of me. But this idea of me is predicated on just all the stuff you've absorbed throughout life. So you've got a lot of seeds sprouting. Some are males, and a lot of them have nothing to do with you whatsoever. But right now is the time. You're going through a spiritual awakening. We're in a powerful equinox sort of vortex of energy where you can discover your seeds. And right now it might only be a seed. It might only be a feeling inside of you. But if you go all in with that one seed, that all you need is one seed. And that one seed is going to be the foundation of your successful medical marijuana business. No, it's going to be the foundation, just kidding, it's going to be the foundation of your life. If we're not in alignment with our deepest truth, then anything we create is destined to fall away. And it might be boring and dull to sit there and be, but if you can do that, you can find your seed. And though it takes time for that seed to sprout, eventually you look around and your entire life is in alignment with your highest truth. And then it doesn't have to fall away. All this sort of like these disruptions, they'd stop happening so much because everything starts to become created and manifested from a place of clarity and consciousness. Okay, my friends, I will leave you with the tip of the week. The tip of the week is do the work. It comes when it comes. Reminds me of something I heard a long time ago in Costa Rica. I was visiting this place called Rhythmia. It's a plant medicine retreat center in Costa Rica. And they had the owner is this guy named Jerry, a real charismatic, pretty cool dude. And he kind of has this analogy that he draws out for us. I'm gonna do it for you real quick. In regards to intention, people come to this retreat center and they want to heal. They want to find out something about themselves. And he says, okay, listen, here's how it works though. You may have your intention, but you have to understand that the plant medicine, this is a metaphor for your own awakening, regardless if you're into plant medicine, but the plant medicine, your awakening will take you to your intention as quickly as possible. But the thing is, it's going to take you through stuff, things, experiences, healings in order of priority. And it might seem as if they're unrelated, like this. Here's our intention. Maybe you want to meet your soulmate, right? But in order for that to happen, you need to go through this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. So the idea is that doing the work, it comes when it comes. Your higher self is always bringing you to your dreams. It's always bringing you forward to a life more pure, more enjoyable, where there's more joy and abundance, all that kind of stuff. But on the way, it can feel like these curveballs, these healing curveballs, these dark night curveballs, these tangents are brought up. And it might come up like you're heading over here to do this new career, and all of a sudden it's like, this childhood emotion comes up and you're thinking of it as a distraction. Oh my goodness, I don't want to have to deal with this. But your higher self knows that, listen, this is impacting this. If you don't get rid of this, if you don't tend to this, be with this, heal this, integrate this, then none of this matters. You can't go forward. And even if you force yourself forward, this very thing is going to screw it all up because it's a part of your unconsciousness. It's a portion of your consciousness that's blind, that's blacked out, it's going to sabotage the future in some way. You gotta tend to it. You must understand this. So it's important at this time to be especially fluid, like water. And you can have a trajectory, but be very flexible and be mindful and tend to whatever is coming up for you at this time. It might not seem relevant, but you can choose to trust that there is. You can choose to trust there is a higher order going on here. And it's way beyond what any of us can even fathom. And it's only as we trust and yield and just keep going down the path that eventually, sometimes we can look back and see, oh wow, that did make it. That actually made a lot of sense. Thank goodness. I listened to my intuition and flowed with it. So flow with it, my friends. Before I go, I just want to let you all know, last week I mentioned I'm having a retreat in Sedona in June. There are still spots, so if you want to check it out down below, it's going to be amazing. We're gathering people from all over the world for a process, an experience of healing and transformation and clarity of purpose. But listen, there are not many spots left, and this is the only retreat I'm doing all year. I just want to kind of let you know that in case you're on the fence and sort of thinking about it. It will be soon that we're completely booked up until 2023, probably in June again. So just want to let you guys know. And with that said, have an amazing week, my friends. I'll see you next time. Much love. Peace.